Hello, welcome to Movement Not Miracles. I thought I was going to have trouble connecting then because my Wi-Fi was messing about, but it looks like we're here and we're raring to go. So today's session, a bit of an all-over mobility session to try and get things moving, get some of our joints, particularly my shoulders and upper back. So we're going to work on shoulder mobility, upper back mobility, a bit of stretching across our shoulders and our chest, and some work through our hips as well. So to start off with, I'm going to do these standing. You can do them seated, but I've been sitting for most of the morning. So I'm going to start off standing. And I've got my trusty yoga belt at the ready because we'll be using our shoulders, working our shoulders with that. If you haven't got a yoga belt, you can use an ordinary belt, a dressing gown belt, a broom handle, something that is solid to brace your arms against. So we'll be using that shortly. I shall just stick that to one side. So to start off with, we're just going to get our shoulders moving. So good old trusty shoulder rolls. And as ever, anything to do with our posture and our movement through our joints, it's really useful to start in a balanced position so that we even up our body and work it the same on both sides. So standing or sitting with your weight evenly distributed so that we're not sort of leaning on one side. I don't know about you, but really bad habit of sort of standing on one hip. Which means this hip gets loaded and this side of our body gets loaded and this one doesn't do any work. So make sure your weight is evenly distributed either through both feet, so you can feel both feet on the floor, or on the bones of your bottom, so sitting up nice and tall out of the chair, away from the backrest. And we're just going to start just imagining standing nice and tall. So for me, I'm already working through the muscles in my legs to support pushing down out of the floor and standing up nice and tall. If I don't do any work and I'm just sort of standing, I'm sort of slouched, and straight away I can feel my back aching a bit in the middle. Whereas if I stand up, tuck my pelvis under, that just feels more comfortable. And in that position, we're just going to start rolling the shoulders. And we're aiming for shoulders coming up to the ears and then back and down. So you get a nice big stretch across the front of your chest. And for that to happen, your shoulder blades have to be moving on your back, on your upper back, on the opposite side of your chest, your back chest. It is such a thing. I know exactly what I mean when I say back chest, and I'm sure you can imagine the same. So shoulders, and a nice deliberate move. Imagine that you're moving through every millimetre with those shoulder blades, and then gradually introduce the arms. So lifting our elbows up to start with and really pushing the elbows back so you feel more of a stretch across your chest. I did about 1 million press-ups yesterday, and so my chest is feeling it. Oh man, it is indeed. So a nice big stretch up now with your arms by your ears if you can, and all the way back and down. Now when you're reaching up with your arms, try and not to let that happen. So we don't want our bum to stick out and a big arch in your back. You want to try and support your lower back so that I'm just going to move away from the wall, so you are not exaggerating, because the danger is we just let everything move, which means we're not getting as much movement through the shoulders, but also you can just aggravate your lower back. So keeping everything solid down here, by working through your bottom muscles. So if you poke your bottom muscles, they should be contracting, and your tummy muscles to keep all of that nice and still and secure. Because we're aiming for the movement at the moment through our upper body. So through those shoulder blades, and stretching across the chest. So we're going to now, in fact, before we do this, we'll do a bit more of a stretch through the chest. So same position, sitting or standing nice and tall with your weight balanced. Just clasp your hands behind your back so that your hands are just resting on your lower back, nice and relaxed, and then shoulders back and down, and really squeeze your shoulder blades together to get a nice stretch across the front of your chest. So you should feel the stretch through your pec muscles here and maybe through the front of your shoulders. So to start off with, your shoulders might be quite rounded like mine are there, and what we're aiming for is shoulders back and down, squeezing your shoulder blades together. Think of bringing your elbows together, maybe that might help as well. And again, don't let your bottom arch, don't let your belly stick out, and just breathe into that stretch. When you feel your muscles relax, see if you can squeeze your shoulder blades together a bit more. And notice that my shoulders are away from my ears, so we don't want your shoulders hunched up here and tension in your neck. You want to be nice and relaxed through your neck, so that's not hurting or stiffening up. Okay, a bit of a tactical waggle. Now we're going to take these into the shoulder dislocates. So if you wrap your hands, the belt around your hands, or get hold of your broom handle, make sure you're not going to whack anything behind you. You need quite a bit of space behind you. So I'm going to do this from the side. So starting with your nice, secure, balanced position. The wider your hands are, the easier this is. There should not be any pain in your shoulder joint. So if you have pain in your shoulders, then stop. You should feel your muscles working, and for me, it is going to feel quite a big stretch through my chest and working through my upper back, and that's okay, but you shouldn't feel any pain in your shoulder joint. If you're having problems with your shoulders, go back to shoulder rolls, and don't force yourself through any pain. But if you can move your shoulders, this is a really nice way. For me, I get a much more movement out of my shoulder joint. Oh, nearly took my ponytail off. So all the way over and all the way back down. So the wider your hands, the easier this is. So I'm starting quite wide at the moment, and I'm just working to work through those muscles in my upper back. So the muscles in my upper back are working to create the movement, and the muscles in my chest are stretching as I'm moving. So we are just going to shorten the gap, the distance between my hands a little bit, which will make it a bit harder for me. And let's see, we're aiming to keep our arms straight. So what tends to happen with me is my right arm bends, and that's really, my right shoulder is stiffer. So in order for the move for this to happen, my right elbow, as you can see there, just bends slightly, which is not wrong, but it just means I'm not getting the movement that I need through my shoulder blade. So I'm just going to lengthen. There we go, that's a bit better. The idea with any of these moves is that we work and challenge ourselves, so we get as much movement through the joint as we can, and we do it properly. So doing it, if we forget about the technique, one, we're not actually working what we want to work, but two, we can hurt ourselves, and we don't want that to happen. So it doesn't matter if you need to have your hands quite wide. That definitely feels better through my shoulders now. Just get rid of the belt. And so sticking with shoulders for the moment, I'm also just going to do a stretch to work in the front of our shoulder muscles, so the deltoid muscles in the front of our shoulders, just to stretch through them, and then we'll move on to something else. So we're going to put one hand behind our back, starting in that nice balanced supported position, one hand behind our back with that shoulder back and down, and the other hand is supporting behind, as you can see, and thinking of that shoulder back and down and squeezing the shoulder blades together. So you're going to get a bit more of a stretch now in the shoulder rather than in the chest. So we're just going to support that and breathe as you move into that stretch. Okay, release that shoulder and we're going to do the same on the other side. So hand behind your back, supporting your hand with the opposite arm. Now this is my stiffer shoulder, so straight away I'm really struggled to get this shoulder back and down. The shoulder's quite rounded. That's just the way my shoulder is. I'm afraid it's been injured in the past and it just is what it is. But it's much better than it used to be, believe me. And I'm just stretching through the front of that shoulder. Okay, so we're just going to do some side bends to work through our spine, Bendianas, affectionately known as. So we're going to start feet a little bit wider for me, just so that I can get a little bit more movement. And to start off with, just nice gentle movements. My back's clunking a little bit. If you get a bit of a clunk in the joints, that's not bad as long as there's no real pain. So a bit of clunking is fine, but we don't want any continued pain afterwards. But my back has stopped clunking now. And as you do a bit more movement, now I'm going to work to see if I can get my arm down a little bit further and a bit more of a stretch through the spine. And then next one, we're going to introduce the hand over the top. So a nice big stretch up and then down one side and over the other. So we're combining a bit of a stretch and some mobility. I know I say this a lot, but shoulder rolls, upper body twists, side bends are really good ways, simple ways of us looking after our posture and keeping our upper body, and in this case, your mid-spine, moving. It doesn't have to be more complicated than this. And if you did these moves throughout the day, little and often, then it certainly helps my upper back and my shoulders stay mobile and flexible. So, okay, that's a little bit better. We're going to move on to just some simple hip mobility. So again, if you find that you're spending a lot of time seated, then your hip flexors, the muscles in the front of your hips, the muscles that allow your legs to do that, they can get really short and tight, and that then in turn can mean that your hips are not as mobile and you can get problems with your back, problems with your knees, problems with your hips. So keeping your hip joint mobile is really useful. Now you can do this lying on the floor. If your balance is a little bit iffy, you can do it seated as well. So if you're sitting in a chair and you lift your knee up to your chest, but if you want to work your balance as well, standing on one leg, lifting the other knee up to the chest. So the chest isn't going down to the knee, I'm not leaning forwards, my knee is coming up to the chest. So you're going to feel a bit of a stretch through the back of the leg and into your bottom probably, but actually we're just encouraging the hip to move through its full range of movement in that plane, and then we're going to do the other side. Because if you're sitting in a chair, it doesn't really move past this. So, oh, she says, practicing her balance. That supporting knee slightly bent, so just standing on one foot also works through your Achilles, the big tendon. Oh, I can hear my dogs. I think they're going for a walk. Lifting that knee up to the chest. Okay, and then another simple move, lifting your knee up, out and down. So again, you're encouraging a full range of mobility through that hip joint, bit of a balance by standing on one leg. You can use support if you need to. So finger on the wall, and the other side. Up, round and down. Okay, so your hips should feel a little bit looser. Shoulders and upper back should feel a bit better. Just doing some simple movement and stretch throughout the day can help stop us stiffening up, correct our posture, help you sit or stand with a better posture, which means that we can ward off some of those aches and pains that we get. So next time you're making a cup of tea, see if you can do some shoulder rolls. I'd love to peep into people's houses and see whether there's anybody actually doing any of this stuff, or whether it's just me, the mad woman from eMove Be Happy. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you now, so don't forget, check out the website for some more online coaching wellbeing solutions. We have coaching programs to help with eating and exercise habits, to look after your mental health, some really good practical ideas on the things that you can do to help look after your mental health and to support others. And we do have some funding available for some free places on our coaching program, so check out the website www.eatmovebehappy.com. Stay safe, stay well, keep moving. See you tomorrow.